From Unity Church of Christianity in Houston, Texas, this is The Awakened Life with Reverend Howard Caesar. Unity is a non-denominational Christian church providing a positive, practical, and progressive approach to Christianity. Let's join the service in progress with the Reverend Howard Caesar.
A reminder again of what was born into us as creative beings. And so to be more joyous, to be more peaceful, to be more loving, to be more faith-filled, to be more giving, all of these characteristics. We're celebrating, of course, the birth of Jesus Christ. And Jesus brought into the world and into expression the Christ. He modeled it, he displayed it, and he showed what the light of Christ looks like in so many facets and ways. And that this time of Christmas is really a time of big energies. For some reason, well, simply about it being the Christ and kind of going back to our heritage and remembering who we are, and there's a shift that moves basically the masses of people into an energy that is joyous and loving and giving, and it's a magical time. It really is, if you give yourself over to it and allow it to take over in you. And these are the Christ energies, and we are to put on Christmas, and putting on Christmas is really putting on the Christ-likeness qualities and tendencies and teachings that Jesus brought and showed. And there were many, of course, things that Jesus stood for and taught. But today, I wanted to speak about three in particular, and I'm calling them the 3 P's of Christmas that we want to bring to Christmas. And the three P's are peace, power, and perspective. We want to bring peace, power, and perspective. There may be other things, but that's what we want to kind of slice out for today. And let's just take power to begin with. We want to remember that Jesus introduced a healthy kind of power. You know, it wasn't about power that has to do with necessarily manipulating and controlling an outer world and controlling people. It was really a power that had to do with the internal, that everything moves from center to circumference, that there's something very, very powerful about you, and it dwells within you. It comes from within you. That's where you must look first and foremost. And of course, he talked about that power as being about love and other dimensions of it as well. But it's a power for good, and that the power that we all share, the one presence and power, the nature of God, the divine, is good. And so we live in a universe that is good, and we have this power of good that dwells within us. This power of goodness wants to have an outlet, it wants to be expressed, and never do we feel better than when we open and allow it to express in its varying ways. And so Jesus said that this power was in all of us, that it needs to be developed, it needs to be brought out. He said things like, the things that I do, you can do also, and even greater things than these. And he talked about the idea that this power that resides in us is like a light, and that when we open up to new dimensions of love and caring and kindness and goodness and giving, that it's like a light that goes on, that we brighten up in a sense, and that we begin to bring light into the world. And of course, he said, I am the light of the world and you are the light of the world, and let that light shine. And so that's what Christmas is, a big part of it. And the candle lighting services and all of that symbolize that dynamic. And he taught the way mainly to bring that light in all its brightness was to move into the energies of love and realize that we're really all one, and to move beyond the head and into the heart. Jesus was ministry of the heart. He moved people out of their heads and living there alone and into their hearts. And that's such an important part of Christmas too, and of our whole journey really, because we can't find God or we can't find unconditional love, either one really, in the head alone. Isolated. A person has to choose to live from their heart and begin to think from their heart and live from their heart. Our head tends to keep us in separation, rationalizing, judging, and doing all these things that in the mind creates a story that separates us on out from life and each other. It keeps us from being free. It keeps us in fear. Basically, all your fears are born of the mind being separate from the heart. And the heart has the tendencies to let go of conflict, The heart has a tendency to forgive. The heart has a tendency to move into the energies of oneness. And it's important to open up to the heart. Now, there are many benefits to oneness and a heart-directed power of love moving through you. And one of them is the second P that we're talking about, and that is peace. We're talking about a peace, a kind of peace that Jesus spoke about. And this kind of peace is basically a kind of peace that has an untroubled heart. You're in the heart, it's not troubled in any way. You just have feelings of harmony and peace and goodness moving through you. Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world give. Do it, I give it to you." But he said, "Let not your heart be troubled, and neither let it be afraid." So the key to really having this sense of peace that we're meant to have and actually lives at the core of our being right now, the same way that as the hurricane of activity goes on around us, at the hub, at the eye, is really a peacefulness. And that's why we say it's so important to turn within, to get into that stillness, because there is a place of stillness no matter where we are, no matter what we're facing. At all moments of time, there's a place of stillness where the divine resides, and we can have that sense of peace, that is not anything as the world can give. It's well beyond that. And it's where you let not your heart be troubled, and neither let it be afraid. It's a zone of amazing energies. Now, Lao Tzu spoke to this idea of the heart rather beautifully. And what Lao Tzu said was, he said, "If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. And if there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. And if there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. And if there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. And if there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart." Everything is taken back to the heart. It starts in the heart. That's where peace resides. So you and I have been called to bring peace into the world. All right? And it's by knowing our true nature as spiritual beings. It's by knowing that our true nature is really the Christ nature in us, this higher self. There's a place at the center of our being where there is a calm, and there is a peace, a peacefulness, a place that cannot be disturbed, and actually has never been disturbed. There's a place in you that has never been disturbed. You just don't go there very often, all right? It's there. It's there. God gave you that sacred place, and it's spoken of in the book of Psalms as the secret place of the Most High, all right? In the secret place of the Most High. And the Lord is your shepherd. He leads you beside still waters. There's a place in you where the waters are still, and it's calm. Jesus said to the storm in the New Testament Gospels, "Peace, be still." And it was still, because he knew that was possible for him in any place, in any storm. And so there's a great power in this place of peace, because this place of peace is a place where God lives in you and dwells in you. You are a temple, and there's always a peaceful place in a temple where you can go. And so it's void of fear, it's void of inner conflict, it's void of anger and guilt and any consciousness of separation. It's not any kind of peace that the world could give to you. It's the kind of peace that is born of the Christ in you, born of the higher nature in you, coming into expression. It is a peace that attunes you with the power of God, the power of good within. Now, there is a beautiful prayer that really talks about this idea of peace and oneness. And this was a prayer that was crafted and put together by a man named Il-Chi Lee. He is a Korean spiritual teacher. And he was called upon to deliver a prayer at the opening ceremony at the Millennium World Peace Summit that was in front of religious and spiritual leaders in the General Assembly Hall at the United Nations when we went into the new millennium. It was in the year 2000. It was in the month of August, and he had crafted this letter. And this is what he shared with the spiritual and religious leaders. in that assembly hall at the United Nations. I will read it to you because I think it's full of wonderful consciousness. I offer this prayer of peace, not to the Christian God, nor to the Buddhist God, nor to the Islamic God, nor to the Jewish God, but to the God of all humanity. For the peace that we wish for is not a Christian peace, nor a Buddhist peace, nor an Islamic peace, nor a Jewish peace, but a human peace for all of us. I offer this prayer of peace to the God that lives within all of us, that fills us with happiness and joy to make us whole and help us understand life as an expression of love for all human beings. For no religion can be better than any other religion. For no truth can be truer than any other truth. For no nation can be bigger than the earth itself. Help us all go beyond our small limits and realize that we are one, that we are all from the earth, that we are all earth people before we are Indians or Koreans or Americans. God made the earth. We humans have to make it prosper by realizing that we are of the earth and not of any nation, race, or religion. By knowing that we are truly one in our spiritual heritage, let us now apologize to all humanity for the hurt that religions have caused, so that we can heal the hurt. Let us now promise to one another to go beyond egotism and competition, to come together as one in God. I offer this prayer of peace to you, the Almighty, to help us find you within us all, so that we may stand proudly one day before you as one humanity. I offer this prayer of peace with all my fellow earth people for a lasting peace on earth. Amen. It's pretty powerful, isn't it? It's a beautiful power. Puts us all together, puts things in perspective. All the things that the head uses to separate and to fight over and to move into inharmony about, that the heart could surpass and transcend. As Lao Tzu said, it comes back to the heart. It starts at the heart. So if you are willing to go to the heart, you are willing to bring peace on earth. It starts with the individual. And as more individuals find that peacefulness as opposed to conflict in themselves, that energy takes over, all right? And that becomes dominant. And that wave washes over and away all that would separate. And we are moving with a oneness. So we're here to be peace. We're here to be power, and the power of love. Love brings together as one in union. So we want to pray for peace. We want to meditate on peace. We want to reflect on peace and on love and bring love and peace to our families, to our workplaces, to wherever we may find ourselves. Where there is disharmony, we want to bring harmony and a peacefulness, an energy of peacefulness. And when we are in peace, there is no longer inner conflict. There is an absence of negativity. There is an unconditional love that is moving. It is a contented kind of inner stillness that one functions from. It's a feeling of oneness, a feeling of unity. The small self has been transcended, and there is an inner security that goes beyond prior stresses and concerns. You're centered. You're in that core. You're in that hub. You're in your temple. You're in that quiet place in your temple. No matter what's happening outside of you, you're able to bring the energy of peace. And it's basically our truth. It is our heritage. That's who we are. Anything else is an illusion, really. And the way we bring it is by continuing to surrender everything that's not harmonious, not peaceful, to surrender anything that brings a sense of inner conflict that has kept us from our sense of who we are and our peacefulness and our lovingness. That's peace. The third P is perspective. And so Christmas is about birthing our Christ nature of the inner God power and love, and of course birthing the idea of peace, which we addressed, which is both of our Christ, has to do with our Christ nature, that takes us beyond our fears and conflicts. And so an important way that we are actually able to move into peace and power, and the power of love, is through a healthy perspective. Our perspective has to change. We have to see things differently. It's all part of it. And it's a way to look at whatever is going on in our world, or approach whatever is going on in our world. Our personal world and the world at large, in fact. Our Christ self is, as we say, another term for our higher self. And if we are to be in our higher self, we have to have a higher view of things than others may have. Those who are caught up in the conflict internally and externally, we have to have a higher view than that. We have to rise above that. We have to transcend it. We have to take another perspective, another view. We're called on to do that. That's the nature of the Christ. That's why the Christ came into the world, really, was to remove conflict and take people into their hearts. And so that's what we want to birth in us, is that dynamic. And you know, Diane and I were in New York this past week, and New Yorkers are so friendly, you know. Yeah, I love to hear them talk. And anyway, we hadn't been there in 10 or 15 years, and it was great to be there for Christmas and Rockefeller Center, and see all the lights and the store windows that are all dressed up on Fifth Avenue, and it was great. We really loved just a couple of days there, 2 or 3 days. And we really enjoyed it, and the people were friendly. And we went up to the 65th floor of the NBC building. It's called the Rainbow Room, and it was at night, and it was dark, and we could see Empire State Building all lit up, and many other buildings decorated from a high place, a high view. And it was beautiful, and really, that was just one of the highlights. But there's a story about a couple who came from England and who were visiting New York for the first time, and New York City. And in all honesty, they admitted that they were afraid of New York City. That, you know, they had heard it had a particular reputation, at least somehow that's what they had heard, that people were rude there and people weren't friendly and that there was a lot of crime, and so they had a reluctance about what they were going to come to experience at New York. So the host that they were coming to see and visit for a brief few days had them, you know, he was smart, a wise person, because he immediately upon their arrival took them to the observation deck at the top of one of the tallest buildings in New York. And although we went at night, they went and saw, and it was a clear day, and you could see all the buildings, and it was the vista. It was beautiful. It just captured their heart. It was spectacular to them. They soaked it in. They really loved it. And as a result, all during the remaining days that they were there in New York, traveling around the town, they were locked into that view, that perspective in their mind and heart of sort of an awe. And that was where the energies began, and that's what they locked into, and therefore their whole experience and whole time was different than it would have been if they had come in down here. You see what I'm saying? So in basically all our endeavors in life, it's important, you know, where we come and connect. The teaching is that we have to do our own inner work and to invest in a higher view of life and all aspects of life. We set the energies flowing in a particular direction, you see, and it's sometimes hard to turn that momentum. But in any endeavor that you're launching into, that is new. You want to get the energies coming from a high perspective and a high view and a high approach, always to start out there. Be of a higher perspective. Birth this higher perspective that wants to be birthed in you to bring about greater good. It helps if we can condition ourselves to realize that no matter what is going on, no matter what it is that we're facing, no matter what it is that we're up against and dealing with, that there is always something greater really happening. You understand what I'm saying? There is always, no matter what is happening, condition yourself. There's something good here trying to sneak in. I may not be seeing it, but there's always something greater here. And that's a great perspective to bring, that no matter what the difficulty may be that you're facing, an answer greater than the problem exists and is available. And it's up to us to really graduate up into that kind of knowing, really. It's no different, you know, we talk about life being like a school. And it's no different than having gone to grade school and then to middle school and then to high school and then maybe on to college and maybe graduate school. And we are continually being introduced to a new curriculum of understanding, all right? So grade schoolers, you know, those in third or fourth grade often think, oh, this is so hard, this is so difficult, and some of what they're dealing with. And seventh and eighth graders may say, oh, this is so hard, I can't understand how to do this. And then there are certain classes when you're in high school that says, oh, this is so hard, you know, it's so difficult, and so forth. But the student in high school doesn't think the seventh grade curriculum is all that challenging, and the seventh grader doesn't think the third or fourth grade curriculum is all that challenging. So like going to school, life has a wonderful way of keeping us on the growing edges, all right? We're always on the growing edges. And in our daily life, if we find that life's curriculum is rather challenging at times, we have to know that we must be in our perfect place. We're in school. It's exactly what we need here. We're on the growing edges. Something good is trying to happen. Something greater than I have yet to see is here for me. And then later on, I'll look back and I'll say, oh, I don't know why that challenged me. It would be like the eighth grader looking back at third grade curriculum. It can be like that, you see. And a person can even get to the place where hard curriculum is like a compliment to one's soul, you know. I was given it because there's something in me that's greater that can handle this and move me forward. There's always something greater going on. You know, we live on a little lake called Pumpkin Lake, and when we had the drought a couple of years ago, it was drying up. And our neighbors and my wife Diane and I, we were kind of really concerned, a little bit upset, because we wanted our home association to fill the lake. It's not that big a lake. But the problem was that the Houston Parks Department actually owns half the lake, and the home association owns the other half of the lake. And the property line's down the middle of the lake. So that made a problem as to who's going to fill the lake. And they couldn't get together on doing that. And so this is the back end of Cullinan Park, if any of you know where it is. So anyway, the lake dried up except for a little area that was deeper. And there were some fish that lived there, many died. But while the lake dried up, our home association got smart, and they went in with some equipment, and they bulldozed up a berm and a dam all the way across, and then built a cement overflow, so that when the water would come back in, they would be able to control their kind of portion of the lake, and wouldn't have to deal with the Parks Department, which has budgets and so forth. So that's what they did, and so now we have more than, there's like a little, like a lagoon there where we are on, and our home properties are protected, and it was a great solution. In the midst of drought, which looked horrible, an answer came for then and our future going forward. There's many stories that you perhaps can think of where something good, you know, sweet are the uses of adversity, is what Shakespeare said. There's a teaching in the Mind of Science, Science of Mind writings. It states this, quote, "Stay with the one and never deviate from it. Never leave it for a moment. Nothing else can equal this attitude. To desert the truth in the hour of need is to prove that we do not know the truth. When things look the worst, that is the supreme moment to demonstrate to ourselves that there are no obstructions to the operation of truth." Got to tell you a humorous story about kind of what we're talking about here, about perspective. There was once a farmer who had 3 sons, John, Jim, and Sam. Now, no one in the family had ever attended church or had time for God. The pastor of the church had tried for years to interest the family in things of God, but to no avail. And so one day, a rattlesnake bit Sam. And the doctor was called, and he could do all that he could for Sam. His recovery looked a little bit dim, so they called in the pastor. The pastor came, apprised the situation. You know, the family had been trying to heal and renew and all this. And so he knelt down by Sam and said a prayer with the rest of the family sitting there. And this was his prayer. O wise and righteous Father, we thank thee that in thine wisdom thou didst send this rattlesnake to bite Sam. He has never been inside the church. It is doubtful that he has in all this time ever prayed or even acknowledged thy existence. Now we trust that this experience will be a valuable lesson to him and will lead him to you. And now, O Father, will thou send another rattlesnake to bite his brother Jim, and another rattlesnake to bite his other brother John, and another really big one to bite the old man. For years we have done everything we know to get them to turn to thee, but all in vain. It seems, therefore, that what all our combined efforts could not do, this rattlesnake has done. We thus conclude that the only thing that will do this family any real good is a rattlesnake. So, Lord, please send us bigger and better rattlesnakes. Thank you. Amen. This is not our teaching at Unity. This is not the way to pray to God. This is not the way we pray or want to teach pray, but it's a stretch to get to the pastor's perspective. You know, he's basically saying always something greater is going on beyond what appears. It's a stretch, I know, but I had to share it. What I want you to know, and I want you to take home with you, and what I want you to put in your spiritual bank is the truth that we are here as spiritual beings to birth peace, power, and a high perspective, okay? To be the peace, to be the power, and to be the one who brings the high perspective, the high view. And that will allow Christmas to be what Christmas is meant to be, your life to flow on new and higher levels as never before. God bless you all. Happy holidays from Unity of Houston. I'm Reverend Howard Caesar.
And I'm Diane Caesar.
And we would like to invite you to join us Christmas Eve at our wonderful candle lighting services in which we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. We have wonderful soul-enriching music, and each and every person is given the opportunity to light a candle to feel their connection to God.
Our Christmas Eve services are at 4, 6, and 8 p.m.
And we'd also like to invite you to join us for our New Year's Eve services, in which we give everyone an opportunity to release the past and have a fresh, happy, fulfilling start of the new year.
Join us New Year's Eve at 6 and 8 p.m. And if you want more information and directions, please go to our website, unityhouston.org.
Thank you for joining us for today's message. We invite you to be with us again next Sunday. At Unity, we believe that God's presence of love and goodness is everywhere, and that life is meant to be good. You can find out more about Unity and our teachings at unityhouston.org.